Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of DemoPod, the Demolition Podcast, starring former three-time WWE World Tag Team Champions and WWE Hall of Famers. They are Axe and Smash, Bill Eadie and Barry Darso. Demolition, how we doing, guys?
Very good. Good to see you, Ryan.
Very good. Very good.
It's good to see you guys as well. I'm here at a Shared Universe podcast studio in Red Bank, New Jersey. Here in Jersey, we're finally getting to enjoy a little bit of spring. It's coming in very late, but I think we're going to have some decent weather when you guys are in town. I believe tomorrow, by the time this episode goes, the big 80s Wrestling Con at the Parsippany, or Parsippany, as Jacques Rougeau would say. The Parsippany PAL 80s Wrestling Con. Demolition's going to be there right off the heels of their induction in the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there on Saturday. You got a big day ahead of you.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you. We're looking forward to seeing all the fans, like you mentioned before. Last time we were there, it was pretty cold, so I'm hoping it's going to be a lot warmer.
Yeah, and what's great about that show also is we get to see all of our friends that are there too. A lot of the wrestlers that we have been seeing quite a few of them lately now, but some of the guys that you haven't seen maybe for a year or 2 years or so are going to be there. Like we talked earlier, Baron von Reschke.
Yeah,
can't wait to see him again.
Yeah. It's cool because I even noticed that in comedy, right? There's comics that I worked with like 10 years ago that I didn't see for a long time. And then you get like a string of gigs where you work with them 4 times in a period of 2 or 3 months. And it's kind of cool. And I would imagine for you guys, you're in Canada one week and it's like, oh, all right, well, I'll see you in Green Bay next weekend and then Jersey the weekend after that. And then it may be a few years again before you see them. So that's pretty cool. We're going to have a lot of fun this Saturday. And I think that if you guys had that line back in February when it was freezing cold, now with some nicer weather and those WWE Hall of Fame rings, I think you guys, got to get those wrists loose. You're going to be doing a lot of signing on Saturday.
Hope so.
It's good stuff. And there's been a lot that's gone on, not just with you guys since our last recording. First of all, we want to give a shout out to all of the new subscribers here for DemoPod, the Demolition Podcast. I mean, we're doing well on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms, but the YouTube channel has really, really come into its own over the last couple of weeks. And special shout out to WWE for allowing us to post your full Hall of Fame speech here on the DemoPod channel. That's pretty huge because I don't see it posted in its entirety anywhere else. And if you didn't have the ESPN Unlimited app, you didn't get a chance to see it. Now it is on our YouTube channel. So I think that's really cool. And I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of feedback from the people that didn't get to watch it on April 17th when it took place.
Well, we do appreciate the administration of WWE. They've bent over backwards and helped us. And like we mentioned in the speech, we've been in this wrestling community for years and years. But now we're back in the fraternity house. And it feels good.
Yeah, and on axandsmash.com on our website now, that's where a lot of people are starting to go, I believe. And
yes,
I'm looking right now. There's been 53,000 views, and that was 3 days ago for that full speech. So that's huge. How many people have looked at that? And yeah, we are getting a lot of great responses to it.
Yeah, and I enjoy reading the comments, and there's a lot of people that are going back to watch some of our earlier episodes. They're also watching some of the more recent ones, and I'm seeing the comments where they're saying, well, they didn't give them the full time for their speech. They should give their Hall of Fame speech on the podcast. And it's like, well, no, we don't want to give a full Hall of Fame speech, but all these stories that got left out, you're going to be hearing more of them on future episodes of DemoPod. In this episode, we're going to be getting to some questions that you guys have left on the YouTube comments, some that you've sent to the DemoPod Instagram page. But right now, we want to direct all that traffic to axandsmash.com. So if you have any questions or comments or shout outs that you want to give to the guys, go to axandsmash.com and do it there. Before we get to some of the questions, I do want to talk about some things that have gone on over the last couple weeks in professional wrestling, namely with WWE. The news broke that The New Day, of course, we're talking about Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, are leaving WWE. My understanding is that they were asked to restructure their contracts, and they made the decision to not do that, which, I can't help but commend anybody who, sticks to their laurels like that. If that is the case, that's what's being reported. They have left the company, and there's a lot of similarities between the New Day and Demolition. In fact, you had your first WWE World Tag Team title reign that lasted a 478 days, which is really astounding. And that record lasted until it was broken by the New Day in December of 2016. And then it was broken again by the Usos, who held the title for 622 days. But focusing on the New Day, there's a lot of comparisons. Demolition, Axe, Smash, and Crush, the Freebird rule, New Day, Kofi, Xavier Woods, Big E. What was it like for you guys when you heard they were breaking the record? Did they reach out to you the way, a baseball player might reach out to somebody whose record they're breaking? When did you guys finally start to realize, like, oh, wow, these New Day guys, they're a big deal. They're serious.
Well, I mean, we had seen them perform, not live, but of course on tape or on TV.
Mhm.
And from my understanding, they're nothing but top shelf quality guys. And Barry had a chance to speak with one of them while we were there last year, not this past induction ceremony. But I mean, they're good athletes, good performers, and they're a positive reflection of the business. So I commend them. And I'm just like you. We don't know any inside particulars about the contracts and this and that. I'm sure if they do not go back to WWE, they're not going to be out of work very long.
Exactly.
Yeah, I when I heard that, we don't know the inside what's really going on with it and everything, but here's two guys that have accomplished so much in the WWE. I mean, look at Kofi; he was the world champion.
Yes, yeah.
These,
Kofi Mania.
these guys can work. So for the WWE to cut their pay by 50% or whatever it was, it just had to be where they were figured out of the whole deal, and they're bringing up some other people, or they're getting rid of the tag teams, maybe. Who knows what it is, but two incredible guys, and for them to beat our reign for the 478 days, it's great that somebody like that's going to be the ones that's going to win that. Um, I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to go to Japan or if they're going to go to AEW or what they're going to do, but they won't be out of work very long. And I'm sure they saved their money and they got plenty of money.
Mm. And not to take anything away from their record-breaking title reign, but we just have to point out, I mean, when you guys had the record, there was one World Tag Team Championship. The waters got a little bit muddied there for a while because there was the Raw World Tag Team titles, the SmackDown Tag Team titles, then they put them together. Now they're broken apart again. So, yeah, it did get a little muddled there. But I also think what wound up happening too, and it's unfortunate, and he is, again, to Bill's comment, a testament to the business. Big E, with his injury that he suffered, where he broke his neck. My understanding is that, for the longest time, he didn't know if he was going to be able to return until he ultimately made the decision to retire. And I think that kind of threw a monkey wrench in some plans. I kind of got the idea that what they were doing with the Kofi Xavier heel turn was maybe leading up to a return for Big E before
Well,
he
no, I spoke with him at the Hall of Fame in the
Oh,
back.
okay.
He asked us to go on the red carpet, but every time we went by there, he was already interviewing somebody else, so we never really had a chance. But I did talk to him a little bit in the back, and again, he's one of the nicest guys in the world. You know, all of them are so talented.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's again, like you said, Barry, to your point. I mean, none of those guys are going to be hurting, and Big E especially. I mean, he's an intellectual guy, an incredible writer. He's doing some great stuff with WWE right now. So you never say never in this business. And look, I mean, they're already at a pretty high height. It doesn't really get much higher. There's not much more they could do as tag teams to surpass the legacy they've already created. But look, I mean, Cody Rhodes, Matt Cardona, all these guys that left WWE, went elsewhere, made names for themselves, made themselves bigger, and then they came back. And you never can say never in the pro wrestling business, but I just definitely wanted to touch on New Day because I know that they always gave you guys your flowers and always talked about how much you meant to them as performers. So wanted to give a little special shout out to them. I wanted to move on to something else too. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. I know Dan is going to probably be able to roll this clip. My favorite wrestler of all time, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, did an interview with Peter Rosenberg, radio personality, WWE commentator, doing a lot of great stuff. And he specifically asked Shawn Michaels his opinion on Demolition going into the WWE Hall of Fame. And he touched on how it was great for the 80s fans and everything coming full circle. But if Dan can roll that interview clip, because he said something very, very interesting, and I want to get your guys' perspective on it.
What can you tell me about Demolition? This has been a cool thing for us fans of the 80s, for them to go in and to be here to smell the flowers. What was it like working with those guys?
I will say this, and this will sound like a negative, but I honestly do not mean it that way. But I can remember when we first came in working with them, and they were not going to sell anything. It was going to be really tough for Marty and I to knock them down. And us not having any idea why that was the case and not understanding any of that kind of stuff. But now I can go back and watch those matches. It all made sense. And when they did go down and we did knock them off their feet, it meant something. And that was something at that time. I don't know that I understood that as well as I should have.
I mean, talk about an endorsement. On most people's lists of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time, talking in ring, it's Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair are always top and bottom. And now Shawn Michaels, of course, running NXT, molding the future talent of WWE superstars. To hear that, to hear a guy who was responsible for training so many future stars basically say, you know what? I get it now. I was wrong. Those guys were trying to teach us. I didn't understand it then. I understand it now. What an incredible endorsement. And I loved the little bit of clickbait in the beginning because he says this is going to sound like a negative. So that immediately gets everybody's attention. Hearing that, how does that make you guys feel?
Bill, are you there?
Did we lose?
Yes.
Well,
no, he's there.
yeah. So
I couldn't. He broke up there a little bit. But you know what? Like you say, Shawn's one of the most respected guys as workers in this business. And it just goes to show you that we all experience different stages in career at different times. We grow through that process. And for him, he wasn't aware of that, speaks volumes. We all started, and now he's in a position where he's training people and encouraging them to follow tradition. So,
Shawn is a great guy, and what a talent. Back when we worked with those guys, it was a whole different situation of working with guys than it is now. And different than other territories, like Vern Gagne's territory or WCW or Crockett's territories. The way we had to work, we had to be killers up there. And, we were both 300 and 320 pound guys, and we're going against guys that are as big as us or bigger. So we kind of had to figure out how we could keep our gimmick and get them over. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like working back with the Rock and Roll Express. You beat them up, and when it's time for the comeback, you give them one unbelievable comeback, because with Shawn and Marty, they could do anything in the ring, but we're the big, strong guys, and we can't do everything in the ring like they can work. Mm-hmm. So when we set up the match, we made it so the people thought that, oh, those guys don't have a chance. We're just going to annihilate them and beat them 1, 2, 3. But then all of a sudden, boom, the baby face, you get the sympathy on them, and all of a sudden they come and they're drop kicking us both, flying. The house came down. And that's kind of how up in the WWE territory, that's how it was back in that day. You know, they got to put over the big guys, and the big guys put them over at the end. So when he said that, I'm glad he did say that, because that's how it was back then. You know, now all of a sudden you got Rey Mysterio, taking down the Undertaker and this and that early in the match, and they're having an even match.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was more reality, I think, back then.
One
That's just
hundred.
that's my take.
Well, I mean, you were there, you lived it, and I mean, so both of your takes are the ones to go on with this. And I mean, we have Shawn Michaels basically,
Well,
explaining why it worked the way that it did. It's classic psychology. I mean, when I go back
yeah,
and watch those old tapes, at that time, at my age, I was a young kid. I didn't know about the Rock and Roll Express. I didn't know about the Midnight Express. I didn't know that Shawn and Marty had been in AWA as the Midnight Rockers, a little fun play.
right,
But again,
right,
another tag team that you guys had some similarities with, in the sense that, you guys were the WWE's version of the Road Warriors, and the Rockers were WWE's version of the Midnight Express. And I think the difference that you guys had with your feud with them that edged everybody out was the WWE marketing. I mean, I can remember
right,
watching those WWE superstars and challenge tapings, and you'd see the pretty girls, teenagers, 15, 16, and they had the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty t-shirts, their hair all done up. And now here comes Nasty Axe and Smash, and they're going to put the beat down on them. You want those people to be invested in that. It wouldn't make sense if Shawn and Marty just came out and started laying waste to you guys. You got to build
right,
that crescendo for the audience.
right. In a funny story was the Brainbusters came in, and they were on TV, and they had about 8 minutes or something on TV, which is a long time for a TV match when you're working with a couple of guys that aren't top guys. They're guys to get you over. And they end up having a hell of a match on there. And Arn comes back and says, "Hey, Barry, what do you think about that?" And I said, "Arn, come on back here for a minute." I said, "You're going to work an angle with us. You don't want to have a good match with the bottom guys. You want to get over on these guys, and you want the people to think, 'Holy cow, they're going to go against the Demolition. They're going to give the Demolition a hard time.'" Well, they didn't do that with two of the guys that get beat every week.
Yeah.
And Arn looked at me and goes, "Oh, geez, it never even dawned on me. We just wanted to look good." I said, "Looking good would have been beating the crap out of these guys and punishing them and making them miserable." And he goes, "You're right. Next match they had, they freaking went out there and tore it up." See, and then now the people are looking at it going, they can take on the Demolition. They might even beat those guys. And they end up beating us too. So that was kind of the
Well,
same thing with the Rockers and us. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
yeah. And a lot of the times, and the other talent or the other wrestlers we were in the ring with didn't know. We were told by the office, don't do this and don't do that.
exactly.
Apologize to them, but don't do anything. Don't give them an inch.
It makes a lot of sense. And Barry, to your point, I just got reminded of a story. ISPW, the parent company of 80s Wrestling Con, one of their Hall of Famers, good friend of mine, main event Michael Mars, Mike Tarris, he always tells the story about working a taping for WWE, and it was with your guy's old buddy Crush. And this was when Crush was feuding with Lex Luger. And Crush had done I turned my back on America. I've gone off with Mr. Fuji in Japan. And when he was back in the locker room, somebody from the office, I don't recall who offhand, but somebody went up to Mike and said, you kind of look like Lex Luger a little bit facially. So they basically put him in a Lex Luger t-shirt and had him go to the ring. And then Crush was like, "Oh, this is Lex Luger's number one fan." And I mean, just laid him to waste, beat him from
Yep.
pillar to post. And it went over so well that Mike tells the story that he went back into the locker room and Lex came up to him and gave him $200. Was like, "That was great, kid. Perfect." So for you to say that to Arn Anderson, it makes total sense because, we're trying to build a threat here. These are the guys that we think are going to be able to finally take down Demolition. But I want to stay on this whole Rockers thing for a little bit.
Let me interrupt you just for a second too.
Please.
Now Arn's one of the best wrestlers around,
Oh, of course.
but when they came from where they were at to where we were at, that was the difference back then. You didn't have good matches with those, I hate to say the bottom guys or the enhancement guys, because you're you got that 8 minutes to get yourself over, not to get them over. And that's what they didn't know coming into this territory. But after that, that was the last time they did that.
Now, Barry, to that, who taught you to make that transition? Was that Bill, or was that just observing what was going on? Because you made the jump from Crockett over to WWE. Was it Bill who was like, "Hey, we
Well,
do things a little differently here"?
Well, Bill did mention a few things like that, but the office, like Bill was saying earlier, the office told us, you guys are the guys. You look strong and you make it happen. So then it was up to us to do that to our opponents. Even the top guys, you kind of had to get over on them without them knowing it, but you are kind of a deal, right, Bill? Yeah, you still
Yeah,
look
and
good.
we used to offer to pay for the ambulance ride if they didn't. So we were kind enough to do that, but you only got one free ride.
Yeah,
And I brought up to everybody, I go, look at Hulk Hogan. What would he do with one of the enhancement guys? Would he have a good match with them?
no,
No, because he's going to have the good match with Ric Flair.
of
So
course.
that's kind of the mentality you got to go in there with, and you feel bad sometimes, but that's your job. If you don't do it, you ain't going to be the champion. That's for sure.
Hey, if you're appearing on a sitcom, you guys are SAG-AFTRA members, or if you're appearing in a feature film, you're not going to feel sorry for the supporting cast because he has less lines than you. Everybody's got their job to do, and you show up to do it. But to that point, I did want to touch on this because, anything that we're about to discuss is not stuff that isn't already public record, and it's not stuff that both Shawn Michaels and, God bless him, Marty Jannetty talk about openly. From a fan's point of view, and getting to know you guys a little bit like I have over the last couple of years, I am very interested in the personality dynamic on the road and back in the locker room between Bill Eadie and Barry Darso with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, because I've heard a lot of things even before I got to know you guys about your character, about how you both have integrity. Barry always, you get talked about, fun-loving guy, easygoing, loves to, laugh and have fun. And then you hear about Bill and you hear leader, you hear intellectual, guy that people go to with their issues. With how wild Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty were there ever some situations where you guys had to be like, all right, this is what's going to happen when we go out there tonight? Or were they a little more squeamish around you because of the fact that you guys had that whole leadership quality to you? What was that dynamic like between the four of you?
Well, I don't remember, we only had probably a half dozen matches with them. And, they were hot. Like you said, the girls loved them. They were exciting in the ring. They sold. They were true baby faces. You can get sympathy on them. And to be honest with you, Barry and I and Fuji traveled by ourselves. So, we heard stories, but can you verify them? I think the only thing that I can recall is, did they got fired or left after the first night?
Yeah.
In Buffalo. But we were kind of boring guys. We did our job. We'd go to the hotel, get something to eat, go to the gym, go to the next town. So there wasn't much interaction, but you can't take away from what both of them did. I mean, for goodness sakes, look at Shawn. He's in the administration now. So
yeah,
and Bill and I were always very professional, because the one thing we wanted to do was have a great match with everybody. And we had to sit down with each other and kind of figure out, because each team was different, how are we going to be able to get these guys over at the beginning of the match, have our match and get all of our heat, and then figure out how they can make one unbelievable comeback so the people go crazy, and either we screw them or they beat us or whatever happens. So that was kind of the same format for every single person, but you had to do different things for every team. Like the Rockers. I mean, both those guys giving us double drop kicks, double this, double slams. I mean, that made them a team. So that was kind of what our philosophy was.
We actually touched on it on the episode that we did about Crush. Crush joins the Carnage DemoPod episode, and we talked about the Saturday night's main event match that you guys had, where Axe, you were on the outside, and it was Smash and Crush, and then you did this switcheroo with the clothesline finish. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this topic, that it made sense. It was much more realistic. You would expect in an athletic competition that the younger, faster, quicker guys would be, getting the one up, but then raw power and sneakiness and evil, boom, done, over, take the belts, go to the back. It's so simple and yet so brilliant. And I don't know, I really popped when I saw that interview with Shawn. It was sent to me by a couple different people. And I'm not going to lie, I got nervous, just like a lot of people probably did, because I was like, oh man, he's my favorite guy. I hope he's not, going to talk shit about these two. And then he wound up giving you guys such...
And kudos to Shawn. I mean, he he could say anything he wanted, and he could have knocked us. He could have dared everything, but he told the truth, what he thought. And I'm glad he said it like that, because that's kind of how we felt. Was just what he was saying. He's a good guy.
Did you ever sense back then, and I know I'm asking you to go way, way back, but like, we're not even necessarily with the Rockers, but other guys, other teams, when you were talking over a match and they were trying to pitch you like ideas for spots? I know you called a lot of it out in the ring, but were there ever any guys that would show visible frustration if you disagreed with them?
I'm sure there were. It wasn't the fact that they probably wanted to get 14 spots in when they only needed 2. So, it's like we had mentioned before. You have to have a good opponent to have a good match. If not, you're just struggling out there. So I never remember anybody coming back and vocalizing that they were upset, or they were, they may have shown it to somebody else, but we didn't see it.
And as heels, we could see what was ahead of time. We could tell the whole story in our head before we even went out there. Mm-hmm. And you could visualize everything that's going to happen. And we just had our format, and we, it's hard to explain, but every night when we came back to the dressing room, it was like, holy cow, that was the greatest match ever. And it wasn't because all of a sudden in the middle of a spot, they go, oh, I don't want to do that. They all trusted us, because they knew we weren't going to eat them up out there or hurt them or whatever. It was whatever was best for that match is how we worked it. And they knew that.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I was very glad to see him give you guys the props that you deserved, especially it goes to show how much you guys could have influence on the current crop of talent, because their head guy, their head talent, head honcho of developing talent is telling you guys, exactly what needs to be done to have a good match and a believable match back during that era. One of the other things that I wanted to touch on, and it's funny because as we were just talking about Shawn Michaels and the Rockers and the whole enhancement talent deal, Barry had mentioned, what would Hulk Hogan do if he took on an enhancement talent? Speaking of Hulk Hogan, it's sweeping the nation. A lot of different opinions about the Netflix documentary. It's a 4-part series, docuseries. I don't know if you guys got the chance to catch it yet. I was fortunate enough to be able to catch it the first week that it came out. We did an episode, of course, on the evening that Hulk Hogan passed away, where we paid tribute to him and discussed his legacy. Also, your guys' friendship with him, your business relationship with him, everything that you guys accomplished separately and together under that golden era of WWE. I wanted to know if you got a chance to catch the documentary out yet, and if so, what your thoughts were on it.
I have not. Unfortunately, I don't have Netflix at home, but I am in Charlotte visiting my daughter, and I believe she does. So I'm going to catch it, if not tonight, tomorrow.
Yeah, and I did watch it.
Okay.
And it's I watched all 4 of them, and it's unfortunately we all get old, and you can just see from the beginning when he became Hulk Hogan all the way to the end where when he's getting up out of the chair, he couldn't hardly even walk, and it was really sad. And both Bill and I, when we're doing the signing, somebody says, "Hey, can you get up and take a picture with us?" And it's like, holy cow, really? And your back and your knees and Bill and I were talking about how many surgeries he had. We didn't know he had that many surgeries.
Yeah.
We didn't know he was that beat up. But he was the guy. He was the guy who made wrestling, I believe, as big as it is. If he wouldn't have done that with Vince, and Vince had the big WrestleMania, it may never have been what it is. It might still be little territories around. So I thought it was really a good documentary, and I thought I just felt bad for him.
I did too. And, I think what kind of freaked me out a little bit about it is I have some mutual friends with Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley.
Bully Ray,
Yeah, and they all went out there with him to Florida to hang out with Hulk Hogan at his house about, I don't know, a year or two ago, and they wound up, sending me a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. So to see him in that house, and like you said, Barry, in pain, frail, but still working out with his son, doing the things that made him the Hulkster. He never stopped being the Hulkster, and I think that was the thing that I took away from it the most. And it's funny, we joke with you guys, and you guys made the comment about doing a run in at WrestleMania, and Bill going, all right, well, I'll walk, you can run in and stuff like that. I sensed from Hogan, and I don't want to give too much away for those that haven't seen it, and I want Bill's thoughts after he does see it, but I feel like right up until the very end, like he really legitimately believed, like, I could do one more run. I could do one more match, even though he was having trouble getting up. And like that, does that ever turn off in your guys' minds? Is it the thrill of the live crowd, or is it just some guys can't let that go?
Well, I think it's in your blood. The business is in your blood, but I think you have to realize, and it took me a long time, I'll admit, to figure that maybe I can't do this. And getting back to Hogan in a situation that you're talking about, we saw Jimmy Hart the other day.
Oh.
And Jimmy was, he was Hogan's best friend, constantly around him. And every time I see Jimmy, I feel sorry for him. I don't pity Jimmy. I mean, I feel sorry for his loss.
Absolutely.
Because I know that he really, truly misses Hogan. And we also got a chance when we were at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony to meet and sit and talk with Nick for a while. And just to listen to Jimmy and Nick talking about his dad and what they did and what they had planned. It's still hard for me to rationalize that he's not around. I mean, I'll admit that. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why when I was watching that, to watch the Hulkster trying to get into wrestling and going with Brian Blair to the camp, and just having a hell of a time in this business. It was terrible. And all of a sudden, you get the break and he becomes Hulk Hogan. And, it's kind of like all of us wrestlers are all the same. You hope you get that break, and then you finally get that break and you go with it. And that's what Hulk did. But Hulk's break was so much larger than everybody else's. And, he kind of looks at things like, God, I wish I didn't have all these fans sometimes, I think, but then he knows, but that's why he did this.
Yeah.
Because he had no time to his own. I mean, he went from interview to town to meeting people he was 24 hours a day. And that was tough on the family, the whole thing. But I thought the documentary was really good. It really showed him all the way up to the end. And it was just sad,
Yeah, well, Netflix also, I feel, I mean, I'm kind of a documentary nerd, and I especially like the docuseries when it was 4 or 5 episodes and they leave you, guiding you right into the next one. You're like, okay, I want to watch one more. And then that was what happened. I wound up watching that all in one night. But Netflix has this ability to take footage that you've seen hundreds of times, or in some cases thousands. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that clip of Hogan slamming Andre, or Hogan dropping the leg on Warrior, and all that stuff. And it's all in there, but they present it in a way it almost feels like you're watching a music video. So it's a really cool production aspect that Netflix utilizes. There were a few production takeaways that I found interesting, and some things that made me happy. For one, I loved the fact that Linda Hogan was included in the documentary, because as fans, we've heard all the stories over the years, all the stuff, but it seems like before he passed, they had gotten to a point where they could be civil. And she spoke of him, very fondly, which I thought was great. There were a couple things that I found a little interesting that I would love to hear the fans' perspective in the comments. There was some things said about Ultimate Warrior that,
Boy, they didn't say good things about him at all. Oh.
And you know what's weird, Smash? He goes into the Hall of Fame in 2014. Of course, we all know, he passed away suddenly a couple days after that. But then we had the Warrior Award, which stemmed from Ultimate Warrior saying, I want to do a Jimmy Miranda Award to pay respects to the guys behind the scenes. And his wife was going out there every year presenting the award. And it seems like there was all this positivity about the legacy of the Ultimate Warrior. And now that's over. And I kind of felt like, ooh, they're going in on Warrior. So that was the one thing that I wasn't really crazy about in the doc. But I definitely think that for all the fans of this podcast, if you haven't watched it yet, it's going to be right up your alley. And we'd love to hear your feedback and comments. But right now, I also want to pivot to some questions that we've received over the last couple months. Now, again, we want to direct you to axandsmash.com. That's where you can send all of your questions for DemoPod, the Demolition Podcast. We really want to welcome the participation, but don't take things personally if we don't get to you. We do receive a lot of questions and comments, and also sometimes a lot of the stuff that gets sent to us has been covered on past episodes. So don't forget, you can like, comment, subscribe, share this YouTube channel, go back in the archives and look for some of the stuff that we've already discussed. But we'll get a couple questions in. This one is from Trond Helland on YouTube. Hi, I got a question. First, Demolition is my favorite tag team of all time. Repo Man is my favorite bad guy and gimmick of the early 90s. Repo Man always made me smile and laugh. Still does. My question goes to Bill. What is your opinion on the Repo Man character? And did you follow Barry through the Repo Man era? Regards, Trond Helland from Norway.
Well, I never trusted the Repo Man because he was always sneaking around the parking lot. So I got to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be interesting for you to see Barry go off into that. And we're going to do a full deep dive into the Repo Man character on a future episode. But Barry, I mean, a lot of adjustments, transitions. You've talked a little bit about it, but I guess the question that I have is, who did you start traveling with once you went into the Repo Man character? Because that had to be a big transition. You were no longer on the road with Bill or Crush. I mean, who were your riding buddies during that era?
I rode with Wayne Bloom a lot, and Kurt Hennig a lot, and the other heels. But I mean, it was just a great time.
Yeah.
I missed Bill and I missed Mr. Fuji, but I had to move on and get with my other guys.
I laugh. I think I told the story on a previous episode. I ran into some financial trouble back in 2011. I had 3 payments left on my Mustang, and I was like just about 2 behind. And I talked to the people on the phone of the weekend at Ford Motor Credit. I'm like, just give me one more weekend. I got a gig. I'll have it. They came and they took it anyway. And when I finally got it back, my buddy, Bob Britt, former NWA Canadian champion Rocco Dorsey, I put a picture of the car and I went, I got it back. And then he took a picture of you as Repo Man. And he said, now don't let Barry Darso come take it again. And to this day, that was 15 years later, that's still one of my favorite inside jokes. What a character. But Trend Holland, he sent us quite a few great questions. And the next one I want to follow up with. One of the most underrated wrestlers, in my opinion, is Rick Martel, especially his run as the Model, which was great. I agree. Can you give any thoughts on the Model as a character worker, and any cool Rick Martel stories that you may have.
Well, I would argue the fact that he's underrated. Maybe
100%.
the fans, but I think he's very, very good. I first met Rick when I was wrestling in the Montreal territory, and boy, was he over. Him and Dino Bravo were the two top baby faces in Canada at the time. And then, of course, he was champion for Vern or was it not AEW, AWA?
AWA. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed every night that we got in the ring with Rick and Tito. I thought they were a fantastic team. And to say underrated, never in my book.
Yeah, I would say I don't even know how you could even come up with that term for Rick, because he was phenomenal. And I really didn't like the model gimmick. I thought that Rick should have been Rick Martel, because he was so good as Rick Martel. It's like, why change that name? And it's like, are you going to change Hulk Hogan's name? Are you going to change? You know what I mean? It's Rick Martel was the baby face. You loved him as a good looking guy, and he could work. And I'll tell you what a comeback he had when you had him down, and he'd make a comeback, one of the best comebacks in the business. And so he was the man.
Just to clarify,
One of the things that I didn't like about that era is they took all the baby faces, the top baby faces from Canada, and turned them heels. And I know why, and we know why, because they didn't want to have a conflict of an American babyface going into Montreal or Toronto or such and such. But like Barry said, man, Rick Martel was over. Dino Bravo was over. Why not capitalize on it? Ride the horse till it drops.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think what he means by saying underrated, and Trend, if you want to clarify in the comments, you can. I think what he means is the fact that now here we are in an era where maybe not enough people really remember Rick Martel's legacy, and I can see where there's a little bit of validation to that statement, because I remember him as a member of Strikeforce. And then when I went and rented some older tapes, I saw his work with Tony Gurria. I didn't really get to experience much of his AWA stuff, but then he turns from this, lack of a better phrase, white meat babyface into this arrogant model that, again, great looking guy. I mean, women would swoon when he would walk down. And then when he had that, arrogance cologne, what a great gimmick, spraying it into people's eyes. And after beating an enhancement guy, he smells, let me hit him with it. And then he was gone from WWE. And then in late 90s, and Barry, I believe you were with WCW at this time, he shows up on Monday Nitro as a white meat baby face again. But now everyone remembers him as the model Rick Martel. And he winds up having a run with Booker T that to this day, some of the best matches I've ever seen on wrestling television. I mean, they had that best of 7 for the WCW TV title. It made people care about the TV title. And then he got injured and he was gone again. And since then, I don't think he's really been seen much at all as far as on mainstream wrestling television since. So I think that's what people mean by underrated, is the fact that he was just there, he was hot, and then boom, he was gone. But I mean, what a run. I mean, he started, I believe, like the mid 70s, right? I mean, he was a young man and he just got incredible.
Let's change the term underrated and say overlooked.
I like that.
There you go.
You know what? I like that. I think that would work well. The next question, it's still from Trent. I mean, he had a bunch of good ones, and they were all succinct and on top of one another. And this one is about a friend of yours. So it says, the Warlord also never gets enough credit due to being limited at what he could do, according to some fans. He was overshadowed by the Barbarian as he was so good, but I thought the Warlord was actually quite agile for a big man and was quite fast, too, such as his flying shoulder block, for example. Thoughts on the Warlord and any cool stories? Now, this was sent to us before he inducted you into the WWE Hall of Fame, and it was around the time we did the episode of the Double Turn. So I don't know if this person realized exactly how close you are with the Warlord, but have at it. Tell us some good Warlord stories.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think there was a more impressive looking guy than the Warlord.
Hands down. Hands down.
My funny story with him, and it's not funny because it was his habit. He is insatiable in eating. Even we saw him last weekend, and every time he turns around, he's talking about getting something to eat, and he just got done eating. But the first time that I recall, he's in the dressing room, and Barry can attest to this too. He had 2 large pizzas delivered to the locker room. And that was a nightly occurrence, right, Barry? Two
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
large pizzas before the match. But I mean, he was so high strung, he was burning calories at a tremendous rate.
You know, what a lot of people don't realize is he's solid muscle. There's not one bit of fat on him.
Right.
And when you were in the ring with him, you know, you lock up with people that are real muscular and everything. It's like, oh yeah, you know. But you locked up with him, and I mean, that's how hard his body was.
Yeah.
So him being, you know, 6'3", 330 pounds with not a stitch of fat on him, he didn't need to be taking bumps and do all that stuff. It was just kind of like the story we were saying before.
Yeah.
He's the big man, the strong man. But yeah, every place we went, the first thing he would do is find out where he could get food and where the gym is.
Yeah.
And sometimes everybody's starved to death, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door, and he'd go over, and there's a guy from Domino's Pizza or wherever, and he'd take that pizza and he wouldn't share it because he had to have those calories. But I tell you what, you couldn't ask for a nicer, just a sweetheart of a guy. I mean, he would do anything for you, and we see him on the road all the time. And you don't think that he back in the day he didn't talk a whole lot and everything. Now he just talks and talks and talks.
Yeah.
And he runs the Barbarian's whole life. So
He was sitting beside us this past weekend, and I know for at least 4 or 5 different times he's looking at his watch and he's signing autographs, and he's looking at his watch, and I said, what's going on? He says, I got to make sure that the restaurant doesn't close.
most important thing in his life.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's an interesting side note, though. When somebody orders a pizza to a WWE locker room, I mean, it's not the wrestler himself who's going out to meet the delivery driver, right? I mean, is that?
Oh no, he does.
Yeah.
So
He wants to make sure it gets delivered to the warlord.
Yeah, he don't want anybody else to get that pizza.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine being a Domino's or Pizza Hut delivery driver showing up to an arena and like Warlord coming up to get the with the Phantom of the Opera monocle thing that he used to. Oh, that's wild. That's some great stuff.
I just love him. He's great.
No, that is really, really cool. And Barry, was there something else you wanted to add to that about Warlord? We kind of got cut off there for a second.
I just said I love him. He's just the nicest guy in the world, and that's why we asked him to induct us into the Hall of Fame, because he's that good of a guy.
Awesome. We got a couple more questions we want to get to. This one is from Mike Steele, G7Y on YouTube. I wish I could ask a question. Well, guess what, Mike? You're on. It appears that Bill and Barry wrestled each other as Demolition for Steel City Wrestling on April 7th, 1995. Wanted to confirm or deny. Is that true?
That's not true.
Okay.
No,
We've
we
never wrestled each other.
No, we were there, I believe, in a tag, but
okay. Yeah, I didn't know if somebody wanted to cash in on that Royal Rumble spot and give you guys the one-on-one match. It would have been pretty cool if it did happen, though. Next question is from Clomac7659. Has Demolition, either as a tag team or in their single career, had ever wrestled in the territory of Puerto Rico?
Yes, I was there, not as Demolition. I was there 1 week as Masked Superstar. And I think I wrestled Andre one night, Murdoch one night, and then a couple local guys. But only, I think four matches out of the week. Yeah. I had been asked a number of times to go, but for different situations, I just never was able to do it.
No,
But
I would over with Crush and as Demolition, and we wrestled over there.
are the stories that we hear as fans true about just how wild and dangerous it can be?
Well, we were in the back, Brian and I, we were watching this little monitor, and Dino Bravo went to the ring, and they were on early. He was wrestling Carlos Colon, and all the boys were in the back watching this, and Dino gets in the ring, and all of a sudden the referee took a bump, and we're looking like, what the heck's going on? And then we saw Dino. It was like he was jumping up and down, dancing, and he scooted out of the ring, and Carlos Colon got on the speaker and said, "Quit throwing those rocks and everything." Well, they were shooting rocks and bolts and hitting Dino. Dino came back to the dressing room. He had welts all over his back, and the first rock hit the referee right in the head, knocked him out. So that's how crazy it was.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We hear the stories about the, riotous fans in Puerto Rico and stuff like that, bottles, rocks, and that's crazy enough on its own, right? But then I say to myself, well, what happens when you're leaving the arena? What happens when you're checked into the hotel or you're going out to get something to eat? I mean, does it stay in the arena, or, I mean, does it even get sketchy when you're leaving?
It usually
You know,
stays in the arena.
I don't recall anything spilling out after that outside the matches. But when I went there, the thing that I remember, one of them was one of the matches I had was Roberto Clemente Stadium, and they were selling rocks like they were selling concession stand items and bottles of urine. And I'm thinking, holy crap.
Wait, they were selling like
they were selling rocks at not at the concession stand, but like set up like a concession stand. Yeah.
And
that's why a lot of guys never wanted to go there. I hope it's changed now, but I don't know.
That's how it was at the Bahamas too. Little kids had the like a cup of pop or whatever. They have it filled with rocks. They'd sell them for $1.75 a cup, and all day long people are bringing rocks in the building. It was crazy.
And nobody, I mean, Carlos Colon himself or anybody was like, you know what, maybe this is a bad idea, or was it just like, this is par for the course. This is how we do it out here.
Maybe he was lucky enough to never get hit.
Oh,
yeah,
he
was a baby face. He didn't want to stop him.
Maybe he had the concessions on rocks. I don't know.
yeah, he hired the kids, right? They were his kids.
You never know.
Maybe Carlito was one of the kids.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's where it was apples. It wasn't actually rocks. They were just pelting apples. That's great. This one is from Darren Pellet 1082. I've always had a question for Smash/Barry. He used to wear knee braces as Smash. On his right knee, under the braces, looks like a white bandage, but also looks like a foreign object tucked there as well. I could be wrong, but could Barry clear it up as to, was it a foreign object or just part of the knee brace? And that is from Darren Pellet from Scotland. A lot of international questions tonight.
I used to have some brass knuckles that I'd put inside that deal, and just in case you had a ornery fan or something, you could pull that out and, No, I never had nothing.
Oh, all right. After what you just said about Puerto Rico, I mean, anything's possible.
No, I didn't. That was just the bandage so it didn't scrape up my knee, the knee brace.
Was that the same knee brace that got caught in the rope at Survivor Series?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I had 3 different ones that were fitted for my knee. So, yeah, that was the one.
That bump, man, to this day, when I see that, just the sound it makes, I'm like, oh, that is brutal. And I guess this will be the last question for this episode. Like I said, keep them coming at axeandsmash.com. And I think this is the perfect question to end this segment on. And this is also back to our friend from Holland. Last but not least, you guys achieved some great things and had a wonderful career that's really made its mark in the wrestling world. However, if there was anything you wish Demolition could have done that they never did, what would that be and why?
Oh my goodness.
Now, as Demolition, it doesn't mean your
Yeah.
individual careers or whatever. If there was something, a tag team that you wish you could have worked with, a reunion run, I've always dabbled with the question, during the Attitude Era, was there ever any talks of, hey,
Uh,
come back and do this? Anything
I
like that?
I thought we had a couple more years in us at that time because Bill came back and we could have just had the whole run all over again when he got well. And I think they had the idea of cutting us off earlier, and I think we could have wrestled so many more tags that were coming in at the time, you
Yeah.
know. So I just thought they cut us off so too fast.
Well, one of the things that I would have liked to had is a longer run with Road Warriors. I think we could have gone and had a real good run with those guys.
Yeah.
Good friends, better friends with Barry, of course, because he grew up with him. But I think that that could have been a WrestleMania match,
100%.
and I think that's one of the regrets that I have. But we have no control over that, of course. So,
Of
I'm not
course
going to
not.
worry about things I can't control.
No, you can't. And like I said, it's all kind of worked out in the end, right? I mean, here we are all these years later, and there's a podcast, your WWE Hall of Famers. Before we wrap this up, there's a couple other quick things that I want to touch on. I mean, we've been saying since you guys signed those WWE Legends contracts that there was a lot of cool stuff coming, right? And then
Yeah.
with the WWE Hall of Fame announcement, we wound up getting even more cool stuff. And now we can officially say that on WWE.com or WWEshop.com, the Axe and Smash Demolition official Funko Pops. I know Dan's going to throw up a photo of them right now. They're pretty badass looking. I was not familiar with what Funko Pops were until a couple of years ago. I started hosting trivia nights at a couple different bars and nightclubs and needed to come up with prizes to give away. And I had a few people say, well, what about Funko Pops? And then that's when I discovered just how much people love them, love displaying them, loved getting them signed, keeping in the box. Great collector's items. This was pretty huge. Did you guys realize how big of a deal the Funko Pops were before you got the news that you were receiving your own?
Yes. That was one thing Bill and I talked about. We couldn't wait till the Funko Pops were going to come out. And when we finally heard they were, that was huge. I think out of all the action figures, out of all that stuff and everything, I like the Funko Pops because it's different.
Yeah.
And they look good. They did
Oh,
a good job on
they
them.
look incredible. I mean, the detail and the face paint is great. You have those coming out, the Coliseum Collection action figures.
Yeah.
I saw Matt Cardona post some clips of that. I mean, and again, I've talked about it in past episodes how I feel jilted as a kid because I loved those damn action figures, and we did not get the accessories. Now we can, change heads. We could put different outfits on the guys. They don't break. I mean, it's really cool what they're doing with these WWE action figures now. The big rubber guys. I mean, so now you're in this position as two retired professional wrestlers. You got the WWE merchandise, and now you have all this independent stuff. How do you guys keep track of everything that's coming out? Because me as the podcast host and Dan as the webmaster of AxeandSmash.com, we can't keep up with all this merch. How are you guys getting all this done?
Well, it's very exciting. I tell you what, it's like Barry said and you said, the Funkos and the Coliseum and the big rubber guys, and it seems like it's a whirlwind, like a cyclone, but it's going to be nice. I'm anxious to see all of them in
And
person.
we're just very grateful for everything too. I mean, it's huge.
Well, and let's not forget about this because I've been waiting to get another video game console. I kept saying until Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. And now though, after seeing you guys in that WWE 2K26 commercial, we have an episode of this podcast where we talked with the creator and founder of Retromania Wrestling. You guys were extremely proud of your participation in that. And now here you are in a major WWE video game. It's you and Crush, And that entrance is spot on. It's so cool. That has to be an amazing thrill. I mean, we were just talking about little 3D sprites of you guys at the WrestleFest arcade, and now here you are. And I don't even know, is that 8K? I mean, what are they running the resolution on these WWE games now? I don't even know.
It looks real.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very exciting. And you know what? Like Barry said, we're grateful for all the attention. And we keep mentioning, and I don't want to seem like we're playing to the fans, but it's the fans' support over all these years. And I think that the powers that be recognize that the fans do have a voice. And there are certain things that they want. And we're just fortunate for all the support. And we appreciate all the support that we've had from all the great fans for this so many years.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. And again, this episode is going up on this Friday, May 16th, this Saturday. We're going to be in New Jersey. Come meet Axe and Smash Demolition at the Parsippany PAL for 80s Wrestling Con. 80swrestlingcon.com has all of the information for that, as well as axeandsmash.com for all things Demolition. And you guys are going to have quite a bit of merch, I understand, with you this Saturday that could be purchased and signed. You're both going to have copies of your book, the Masked Superstar Bill Eadie storybook, Sickles, Studs and Stolen Cars. You're going to have that. I mean, just tell everybody else about some of the other merch you're going to be bringing this Saturday that they can come and purchase right there.
Well, we've got some trading cards. We've got cups. We've got hats. We've got mini helmets. But the nice thing that's going to be on the website in the near future is different photographs, different items. So just stay tuned. Dan's in the process of going to upload all that for us. And I think the fans are going to be happy.
So, and then Ryan, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You watched the whole Hall of Fame speech and everything. What'd you think of it?
Of you guys specifically? I
Of
think
both of us, yeah.
Yeah, so I loved, well, first of all, I don't even know if we touched on it in the last episode. I love the Dumb and Dumber tie-in because when you when you said you were going there, and that is one of the most quotable movies, I was like, where is he going with this? But you picked a quote that was just perfect because it was obscure enough to not be the most quoted, but it was spot on. And Dan even sent me a note. I like it a lot, the best. I was like, that was great. And I think I said it in the last episode. My favorite thing is that you guys did not get thrown off by that crowd. And I've seen it so many times from guys that are known promo men too, that when the fans jump in with the "you deserve it" or the, applause break where they weren't expecting, it kind of flusters the guys and they kind of lose their space. And I know Bill had said on the last episode that he kind of felt, a little out of place or whatever. It did not come off that way at all. I thought you guys nailed it. I love the camera time that your family's got. I thought that was really important, really cool. The whole thing was great. And like I said, I'm kind of glad in a way that you didn't get to tell all your stories because that's what this podcast is for. And I had no idea that people used to buy urine to throw at you. You wouldn't have heard the Hall of Fame speech.
We don't want that to happen again either.
Not buying urine.
That's a DemoPod exclusive for you right there. Guys, always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this weekend. We got a lot of great stuff coming up. axeandsmash.com. All the socials are connected there. Ryan Marr Comedy on Instagram. Demolition Pod on Instagram. Guys, I'll see you this Saturday.
Thank you, my friend. See you Saturday.
Thank you. Good job, Ryan.
Here comes the action.